Camp is ending. What do we have with Rutgers football? Is Rutgers a Big 12 team? Let's get to it. Okay, long time no see. Hasn't been a lot to talk about. Early to midsummer is always that kind of time of year where you're looking forward to getting into camp and talking about our future. Yeah, there's some recruiting to talk about. We're heading down the stretch. Dog days of August, as I said in my last video, I love this time of the year. You're getting in your last days at the Jersey Shore. The Oktoberfest and pumpkin ales are starting to roll out. Fall, one of my favorite times of the year, and a lot of that has to do with Rutgers football. Camp is ending. Big Ten was at Rutgers camp a couple weeks ago, and they had some things to say. So let's get to it. Is Rutgers a Big 12 team? All offense, so-so defense, hope to outscore somebody. Big Ten was at camp, and they had some things to say, especially Jake Butt. And his big picture takeaways from watching Rutgers football is that, offense won the day. It wasn't too long ago that we would never hear those words coming out of anybody's mouth. He was really impressed with the offensive line, calling it a major strength that is well coached and plays with great pad level and has Big Ten bodies. And, we know Coach, one of the big things that has stuck out to me, and we've talked about this, about the type of players that they're going after size, athleticism, bodies that can play in the Big Ten, and we've made great strides that way. On the interior, Gus Zielinskis, Brian Filton, and Kobe Asamawa were the guys that you knew you were going to kind of plug in there. Butt said that these guys, have the technique that was towards the top of what Dave Revson and Jerry DiNardo have seen through the, first week of camp, whatever. Nonetheless, in a surprise, Dante Chin played left tackle. Taj White was over on the right. Maybe Ryder Langsdale and Zach Amlin get some rotation. Hopefully, we're actually in a decent position now that we have some depth, and we can avoid the injury bug, which it's been a problem for years. We can avoid that for once. We'll get more on insights about the depth of the offensive line a little later in the video when we talk about coach's comments on left tackle as camp finishes up. But, Big Ten Network also gushed about Ian Strong and KJ Duff, who Jake Butt called two of the most physically impressive receivers that they've seen. We're not Ohio State yet, but nonetheless, for us, turning into wide receiver U a little bit. Nonetheless, they commented how these guys move really well. They really flashed. Ian Strong, I'm not a huge PFF guys, but sometimes you can use some of their micro stats to kind of understand the picture of what you're looking at. And Ian Strong had the most contested catches last year, 20, and only 2 drops. So whenever you have a lot of contested catches and not a lot of drops, that's always a good thing. When we had North Texas transfer DT Sheffield, I think there's some hope that he will provide another element to the passing game. We lose Dymere. Hope he, I don't know if he's going to stick on with the Jets, but I hope I don't think he's seen any action in preseason so far, but nonetheless, well, they called him a nice piece, and with George Houston, Michael Thomas III, Vernon Allen, speedster Ben Black. Hopefully, he can hold on to the ball. We are. I mean, when was the last time we had this kind of wide receiver depth? I don't think ever. Um, yeah, we had Mo Sanu. Um, we've had some pretty good number ones over the years, but the kind of depth that I think that we're building right now is pretty impressive. The flip side to the offense winning the day and seemingly ahead of the defense, which is never the case in camp, whether it's the NFL or whether it's college. Defense didn't have a great day. The linebackers and secondary the quote was, "We're fine," but the defensive line was getting pushed off the ball, which is not something, we had some issues up last year with the defensive line. Yeah, we were missing some guys, and there were some injuries. The quote was, "They were displaced constantly, no pressure on Ethan the entire day." Now, that could be a good thing. We've, spent the past how many, till last year, maybe the year before, quarterbacks were, running for their lives. So that's not necessarily a terrible thing, but they Big Ten said the unit has good size but lacked twitch. We'll see how that works out, which is a big reason why he thinks that they didn't see big pass rush. They're probably, he goes on to say how they're probably going to have to send pressure and bring in different packages to have third down success. So when you don't have you don't get the push up front. That's what you have to do. You have to have a defense of smoke and mirrors. Hopefully, we're not in that position, and we build some chemistry and come together. We got a lot of new guys on defense. 7, 8 guys, Eric O'Neill and Bradley Weaver, who we Rutgers fans have big hope for. In addition to Darryl Ngoe and Doug Eli on the inside. We did okay in the transfer portal. I think we were number 51, depending on whose numbers you listen to. And both Eric and Bradley were, again, PFF, take it with a grain of salt. But hey, they recognize these guys as being top 25 at their position. Second level, we cannot get gashed. The schedule steps up this year, and we can't be in a position where we're hanging with the big boys, and then Oregon is gashing off little delayed runs through the second level of our defense. So, will the D line help making lives easy on the linebackers, which a lot of observers and fans are a little concerned about? With Keontae Hamilton, Aaron Lewis, Wesley Bailey leaving, are we going to get enough push out of the front in order to have success on defense? We know it's going to be Jabome and Moses Walker, and hopefully, we had high hopes for Moses Walker, 4-star recruit out in New York. Hopefully, he can step in and do the job. Abram Wright, they're talking about like he's going to be ready. I'm not so sure he had that freak injury celebrating in the end zone last year. What was it, Minnesota? It might have been Minnesota. But the young guys are going to have to step up. DJ McClary, Coach talked a little bit about the linebackers being talented and flash, but they have to develop some consistency. We'll get more to that later. And so we have concerns after Jabome and will Moses Walker finally live up to his potential? Seemingly some hope for Abram Wright. Coach, I watch coaches' body language and I kind of study I don't study, but I'm in tune to how he's communicating his body language and such. But he's mentioned Sam Robinson a couple times, so don't be surprised if Sam Robinson uh, is a significant contributor. He's talked about him a couple of times in a positive light, so we'll see about that. You know, Kamar Archie, uh, will he develop? True freshman, highly rated recruit. So we have the talent there. And in the day of the dawn of play movement stuff, these guys, not just because you need them, but they're going to need to develop earlier to establish their brands and make their NIL money. These guys might have to get in there early. Hopefully, these guys are talented enough and live up to their ratings so they can contribute early on, and it's not unheard of. The days of parking a guy and developing him there and is now part of the new reality. Especially really talented ones. The secondary is going to have to depend. The whole thing with Jet Elad is kind of bizarre. Welcome to the new world. If he observers think looks like he's going to be the guy. As long, if he can get over his legal issues with the NCAA, now we can be solid. Cam Miller, Jacoby Henderson can contribute. We saw Eric Rogers be solid for us. By the way, I had a great preseason game for the Chargers. What do you have? A couple picks. It might have been the highest rated PFF guy that week, first week of NFL preseason. If these guys are solid, and then with Bo Moscow and Kaj Sanders play to expectations and make some progress. Al-Hadi Salam and Chris Joins can contribute, make significant contributions. The defense should be decent enough. We lose Flip Dixon, Shaquan Loyal, who seems to be fitting in with the Bengals. Congratulations. And Desmond Egmanoson. These guys were all solid for us. And we still had some issues protecting against the big play, particularly on the ground. So we have this formula where the offense is ahead of the defense, and the defense, for it to be solid, everything is going to have to come together. Like if we play like we did offensively the end of last year, we're close to 30 points a game, but the defense is getting gashed. That's Big 12 territory. That's Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas. And not Iowa, Penn State, and Michigan. Nonetheless, the guys from the Big Ten Network, they weren't necessarily all in sync on how the offense is overshadowing the defense. Donardo, he kind of likes Rutgers. It always has positive things to say. He thinks Rutgers defense is going to take a step forward, and I hope he's right. He said that this team is much more athletic, and that goes towards the profile and the type of guy physically that the coaching staff is recruiting. Much more athletic, and nobody is on the ground. That's a big thing, especially, if you're in the trenches, you don't want to be the guy that's on the ground. Donardo goes on to say they're going to improve. I don't know what they're going to do up front. That was the only thing. The talent is there. He said, I'm not sure if they're going to move a lot or be a one-gap or two-gap team. It's going to be interesting to see what unfolds there. They have some edge rushes, though, which obviously you need. He was impressed with the secondary as well. I think that's a better back end than they had a year ago. Now, we'll see. Talent-wise, maybe, star power, perhaps, but we have to see. And after the first scrimmage, coach said the defense, we had some coaching staff and we had turnover. He said it's gelling, but it's still going through an adjustment period. And Coach Shiano speak, that means that we got some stuff to work on here. Building chemistry with 7, 8 new transfer, whatever the number is, is going to be a challenge to get them to play consistent and know their jobs, to play consistent defense in the Big Ten, especially with the schedule that we have this year. Reminds me of the issues that we've had with the O-line over the past few years, trying to find the right combo, trying to build chemistry. Who's going to be the guys? That was always the big question every camp. How's the O-line shaking out? And you kind of, although Coach Shiano says he thinks he knows what his two deep is, right now they're still, moving the chess pieces around. And, Coach also said there were some breakdowns defensively, gave up a couple big plays. Well, once again, if our offense is getting big plays, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I get where he's going. He likes to execute with more precision. He says he doesn't think they're far off, but he's also correct when he says you don't have to be far off. You miss by a little, you get gashed on the play. So he wants to make sure that they're more precise, especially in the run game, and that they're playing the right technique in the pass game. He went on to say they did some good things on third down, but you got to stop the run. And I'm a little worried, not going to lie, a little worried about on that. But let's get to the offense, the Big 12 kind of offense. And this is a rarity where a coach, for him, is effusive praise and positive attitude about the entire quarterback room. And it's not just Ethan now, who's had a year in the program and who's become the leader of the team. He thought all the quarterbacks were impressive. And he reiterated it again the other day after the second scrimmage. He thought they had command of the offense. Ethan playing at a high level. AJ has a good day, and he's established himself as the backup. He thought Sean Ashenfelter did some really good things. Said he's showing that he has a feel for the game and for the offense. I had a little bit of worries about Sean when he first came out. There might have been some questions about his accuracy, but he seems to fit this scheme pretty well. So he thought it was an impressive showing by all the quarterbacks. And when was the last time you heard that about Rutgers quarterbacks? That's insane. And then, even Rocco came in and had some good reps. So when you have the depth that we have at quarterback, and you don't have to worry about if somebody gets hurt, who's going to step in. You remember, boy, the guessing games with Noah Vedral back in the day. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? What's Gavin going to do? I mean, it seems like we're pretty set, and these guys all can fit the scheme of what we're trying to do on offense. So to me, that's a big takeaway. When Rutgers quarterback room is a big plus, a big positive. When was the last time we've heard that? Probably never, right? We've been through Noah Vedral. We've been through Chris Laviano, Art Sikowski. When we have to go back to Gary Nova to figure out when your quarterback situation was pretty good. No offense, Gary, but it's like that. So again, with coach's body language and communication style being at ease with the quarterback situation for the first time in forever is pretty comforting, quite frankly, because our offense has been abysmal for the past, well, not last year aside, going back to 2016, 17. Ethan, let's get to it. Quarterback last year, 213 of 395, 54%. I'd like to know what his adjusted completion rate is. At Minnesota, he was up there leading the country in dropped passes. So I'd like to see what his effective rate is. Nonetheless, 18 touchdowns, 7 games with over 200 yards. I think he had 7 picks. First quarterback to reach 2,000 yards since 2015, and that was Laviano, or was it 14? Whatever the year was. But he cut his interception percentage rate in half from 3.5 or 6 to 1.8. So he's executing the offense pretty well. So are we now a Big 12 team with offense? And not only is the quarterback room set and the wide receiver room deep, boy, that just warms the cockles of my heart. Remember when all we can do is maybe complete a 5-yard in pass. What was that game against Michigan at home in the rain and the sleet and the snow? And it was, what was it, 77, whatever it was. And the running, the running back room, conventional wisdom is that it'll be running back by committee, but it'll be instructive to see how it is that we distribute the workload. We're not going to have that lead guy like Kyle, by the way. Had a pretty good first game against the Bears. It was at 6 rushes, 30 yards in the first quarter of play. The grind out yardage, break tackles, never fumble. So we'll have scheme and play calling adjustments with a 3-headed running back rotation with Antoine Raymond, 457 yards on 100 carries. It's a good yard per carry average. 8 touchdowns. It's a little bit of surprise. C.J. Campbell, of course, 165 rushes, 844 yards, 11 TDs, and 40 yards receiving, 466 yards and 3 touchdowns. So are we going to do sort of like a Jets thing here where they're going to, Breece Hall will run the ball at times as the explosive back, but they'll use him as a pass catcher out of the backfield, and I like having that outlet pass, whether to tight ends or to running backs, to help move the yardsticks. CJ had a long touchdown with 78 yards, so that can be a weapon. And Jay Sean, 19 carries, 100 yards, 5.3 average, 1 touchdown. And then we always forget about him, and I feel bad for our star recruit out of Philadelphia. What are we going to do with Sam? How is his health? I would love nothing more to see Sam get some productivity in. Guy you can root for. And then tight end, Kenny Fletcher, will he be over his injury bug? We have transfer Colin Weber. Victor Knopper transfers out. He was going to be, I think he's got 1 year of eligibility left. He's just going to kind of be that blocking tight end, occasional catch. Mike Higgins, who had some success with those drag routes. Logan Blake. The tight end room should be about the same to better. We'll see what happens with that. But if we can get productivity out of the tight end with those seam passes, outlet passes, those little drag routes, I think we'll have a well-rounded offense between the quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends being able to make plays. And it's all going to come down to how we see the workload and the reps distributed. And we'll, running back committee by committee, add up to Kyle's production. We will see in 2024, our offense was ranked number 71. Defense only number 95. That's not a Greg Schiano team at all. I can see that actually becoming more exaggerated this year. PFF offense last year, 83 grade. Not too bad. Defense, 80.7. Offense was number 37 in yards per play. The defense, as you might imagine, because of those big gash plays, was 110th. That's not a Greg Schiano team. So are we a Big 12 team? It almost makes it a little more fun if we could just hang in there and not get blown out by Ohio State, Penn State, the Oregons of the world. Pull off a win against, Iowa or Illinois. But last year, if you wanted to look at, a lot of people thought we'd have like a 9-win season. We had 1-score losses. Of course, we had some wins, but we had 1-score losses to Nebraska, UCLA, Illinois, and Kansas, and then blowout losses to USC and Wisconsin. Can we remain competitive with Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, Oregon? Quite frankly, you always play to win the game, but if we lose to Ohio State and it's 35-30, I'm not going to be that unhappy. Of course, I'll be saying we were almost there, but is the offense going to be good enough, and will the defense make enough plays to keep us competitive? Because don't forget, not only do we have the big boys this year, are we going to be able to push past Iowa? Remember that rock fight a couple of years ago? We just couldn't move. Well, last year? We just couldn't move. No, it was with Gavin. We just couldn't move the ball. And Washington will be improved. This is not a guaranteed win. They had pretty good recruiting. Can we hang with Penn State? We faced 4 top 25 preseason teams. So, and we're 0-5 last year against those teams, and 0-22 since 2021 against top 25 teams. So we better hope we can handle Ohio and Miami, Ohio, when we're allowing more than 24 points, by the way. So the defense is going to have to be better. I'm not sure that we could outscore our way. We're not that prolific just yet. So we're kind of like that above average Big 12 team. How will a more prolific offense impact our style? And Greg Schiano playing close to the vest, playing conservatively, playing defense, playing special teams, trying to stay close. Almost worked against Ohio State a couple years ago. And, in penalties, we did pretty well last year, not committing a lot of penalties, while our opponents, I think, had 84 penalties and 682 yards, and we only had 42 for 444. So not turning the ball over, and apparently in camp, trying to force turnovers and force fumbles has been a thing, which they haven't been good at. But nonetheless, I think the big game is going to be Iowa on September 20th. Is that game 4? Game 4? Game 5? I think it's game 4. If we're 4-0 after that game, we should feel pretty good about ourselves. Iowa's had their way with us recently. 0-4, outscored us 93-17. But if we're going to take that next step and be an above average Big Ten team that teams have to worry a little bit about, we have to beat our peers. We can't beat, Maryland and lose to Minnesota. We got to beat Illinois. We got to beat Iowa. We got to beat Maryland. We got to beat Minnesota. We got to beat Washington at Washington. So this schedule is not just about tough because it's the big guys. We got to go to Washington. I think we have to go to Minnesota too. With last year's schedule, the talent on this team would be that 10-2, 9-3 team. They would. So for now, Ohio, Miami of Ohio, Norfolk, Purdue must wins. That's 4. Bubble teams, we need to beat Maryland and Minnesota. You can get to 6 at another bowl team beating the bottom half of the schedule. Now you got to beat ranked Illinois, who I think is kind of overrated and could have and should have beaten them last year, or Iowa, and it gets you to 7-5 in a year with a tougher schedule and a potential 8-5 year in the Big Ten if you win a bowl game. We could be that better team, and it doesn't reflect in the record. We always have to worry about injuries, bad luck, yada, yada, yada. Can we win a couple games we're not supposed to for once? Just get a big win in the Big Ten? No, I'm not counting that Michigan game. Brady Hope, Michigan was 5-7. Nonetheless, coaches chat, press conference after the scrimmage the other day, I stated it earlier. His body language seems confident. And coach gives himself away despite his coach speak with his body language and speech. Oddly satisfied with the quarterback situation and how adept the good is. With AJ Surrey, Sean Ashenfelter, and Rocco Renone. His quote, "I just think AJ has more time at it, so he looks more comfortable than the rest. Certainly he's defined himself as our backup, but the other two are doing a great job too." When was the last time we heard that? Sean has made a huge improvement as walk-on Rocco Renone. Remember last year when Coach said it was too close to call between Gavin and Ethan, and I'm like, oh man, if Ethan can't beat out Gavin, what are we talking about here? But then we saw the scrimmage or Scarlet and White game, forget which one. But it was clear that Ethan was better. But when talking to the public, he played it close to the vest. This year, he's like, nah, I'm just happy with the quarterback room. Caught a little bit off guard by his not concern, but how he said that no one's taking the reins, taking over left tackle. We need to replace Holland Pierce. I'd love to see someone take over the reins. In the past, we had issues with finding the offensive line rotation, but this year's a little different because he said other guys are stepping into the mix and playing well, which kind of clouds the picture, but it's a good cloud. Because now you have guys, instead of having maybe one guy taking, you have 2 or 3 guys that can play, and that's good for your depth. And if we have injuries, that's a good thing. But you want a guy at left tackle, most important position on the left line, to take the reins and say, I'm the guy. Coach's quote, it's probably clouded the picture more, but that's okay because that's a good cloud. A couple guys got bumped, so they couldn't continue through. So that also gave guys a chance to show what they can do. So I think overall we came out of it with better depth at the tackle position, which I thought might have been Brian Felther's job at one point. But not sure with certainly who are going to be the starting two. So it sounds like the offensive line will be solid enough. It's just how they're going to rotate the top 2 to 3 guys. And then, the linebacker is kind of set with Jabome, Moses Walker with the 4-2-5, and Abram Might, maybe we'll see what happens there. And young players like Sam Robinson, DJ McClary, Kamar Archie. Comments, the young from Shiano, young talented linebacker room is definitely there. It's experience, it's consistency, it's knowing your job in every play. So it's not just about your how you're rated, your recruiting rank. It's grinding it out and doing your job day after day repetitively. And coach says, look, what I've seen in flashes of what they're going to be and what they can be, but there necessarily hasn't been that consistency. You can't miss a tackle here because it's going to cost you the big play. Kind of worries him when he talks about now they might be developed by week 3. They might have to go deeper into the season to figure out their steady rotation. It's all how they continue to develop. I'm a little worried about that. The D-line and the rush may not be the fix that we think it is with Bradley Weaver and Eric O'Neill. Coach saying they're good players, but still building a bunch of new guys takes time. So, when we talk trying to build chemistry with a bunch of new guys to try and win now, boy, that's real. I mean, that's tough even for good to elite programs. Coach says we only go live in 2 scrimmages, so it's really hard to tell. They're good players. I think we're going to have to play our way into figuring out how exactly it works best, and I think a lot of teams are going to be in that situation. When you bring in new players, I don't think you stop evaluating just because the season starts. About a quarter of the way into the season, you really should know what your team is and what they're capable of. But I think with as many new guys as we have on defense, there'll be some tinkering until a little deeper into the schedule. I don't. For us, the whole tinkering thing means that we don't have a guy. So I hope that the tinkering is well managed and guys step into the roles that they need to assume in order for us to be successful. So I hope that defense can build some chemistry together because we can't afford to get gashed in the middle and essentially be a Big 12 team with a tougher schedule this year where, maybe against Purdue, we, put up 38, 40 points and then we get gashed on the ground versus Iowa. So nonetheless, that's it. I hope you are enjoying a terrific summer and look forward to summer's end and the start of the season. Pumpkin Ales, Oktoberfest beers coming in, last days at the beach. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend and the coming week, and we'll be talking more about Rutgers football as a season opener starts soon enough. Everybody enjoy a great week. And we'll see you. If you're at the Jersey Shore, be safe because with the hurricane kind of going to be causing rip tides and a dangerous surf at the Jersey Shore. It's had some unfortunate instances the past couple of weeks. Nonetheless, everybody enjoy your week, and we'll see you the next time.